couple of years down the road, you are hanging out on a Saturday evening. The sun is gone down, nothing but
Much like
pure.
what's about to happen hours from now.
Exactly.
Okay.
The coming night. So you're kind of like sitting there, just aware, even though all the lights are on inside your apartment, you're just aware of how dark it is outside.
Okay.
Suddenly there's a knock on the door. You hear a guy go, night mail.
Oh shit.
You hear him like drop something and walk away. What do you do?
Go retrieve my night mail.
So you open up the door and there's just like a large package.
Okay.
It,
Like what kind of package are we talking? Box?
yeah, a large brown box.
How
And
large? Like what shape?
it's a perfect cube.
Okay. How big of a cube we talking?
It's about like 6 feet by 6 feet.
It's a big fucking cube.
It's the biggest cube you've ever seen in your fucking life.
I mean, let's not go that far, but
And for just a second, you look at it and you forget how big it is because the sheer perfectness of this cube is a sight to see. It's not that it's necessarily the biggest one that you've ever seen, you realize, but it's the most perfectly proportioned cube. And you look at it, and for a second, you just think to yourself, like, if that cube was a gal, I'd marry it. That's how perfect this fucking.
what a fucking ridiculous thing to say. If that cube was a gal, I'd marry it.
That's how perfect the proportions of this fucking box is. It's a cube beyond measure. Do you bring it in? It's addressed to you. It says Aaron
Yeah, I mean,
Brooks.
I'm not gonna be able to fit that through my door if it's a 6 foot cube.
Yeah, and like you look at it and you kind of think that to yourself, and you're like, well, I don't know. Let me see, like, test some of these angles or something, and then I'll figure this out.
It's a
And
6 foot cube, Pat. You know how big a doorway is?
yeah, you
How
you
the
think
fuck am I supposed to fit this through there?
you kind of think that, and you're like, well, maybe if I, like, I don't know, like grease it up real good or something, and you kind of like grab it and start to pull it, and it slides perfectly.
It defies the laws of physics. You know,
Yeah,
that's
it goes so smoothly through the door that you don't even really see it happen. Almost, it just kind of goes through, and it's more like the physics of it and the angles are just a bit much for your brain to take. So maybe it blocks it out or something. I don't know. You just kind of get that cube through, and now it's like inside your apartment.
are you fucking kidding me?
What do you do?
Start breaking this cube down. You know, I mean, who's
Yeah,
is there like a label on it?
yeah. There's it says the return address says Lanalax Law Firm. There's no address underneath it. It's just addressed to you, Aaron Brooks. It says your address.
I guess I open it,
You
see
open it,
what it is. Yeah.
and inside this box, there's like a letter, and you look at it, and it says, it's from the Lanalax Law Firm, and it says, Aaron, we handled the last will and testament of one of your cousins. It turns out, Aaron, that you have a very distant cousin who died, and you are the next person in line to inherit his things. His name was Cornelius Brooks.
Oh, Jesus.
some
dad's side.
some people claim that he was like a warlock, but of course it's never proven or anything.
What the
So
fuck?
anyway, you're the closest living relative, and so all of his Cornelius's possessions have been bequeathed to you. Enjoy. Thank you for using Lanalax Law Firm. P.S. Have a great day. So you're like, all right, and you look inside this box, and inside of it, there's this like kind of like antique looking thing. It's almost like you're looking at a very rudimentary vintage computer. It's basically it looks like
Wait, that's the only thing inside of this big fucking box is an old computer and a letter.
a letter, the computer type thing, and a collection of like really creepy photos from the early 1920s. And so
And that's what filled a 6 by 6 cube.
there were a lot of photos.
This
And
fucking
so
sucks.
so
I got an old ass computer and a letter that mocks me. I don't know why I plug it in, I guess.
so yeah, so basically so you plug it in, and essentially what it is, it's this small box looking thing, like an old ass looking computer. However, it's about the size of like a standard Jack in the Box, basically. The toy, not the food. And
Okay,
so,
thank you.
but when you look at it, you think to yourself, "Oh, it's like a Jack in the Box," and your mouth begins to water.
They got their hooks in me. There's one at the bottom of the hill. It's
Yep.
bad news.
Your mind drifts to that Jack in the Box at the bottom of the hill and what waits for you. So it's about the size of a Jack in the Box. There's like a LED digital screen across it,
Okay.
and it flashes across it, and it says, "Ask me a yes or no question."
Jesus Christ. I would say, uh, am I taller than 5 feet tall? I would ask it twice and see what it said each time.
It scrolls past. Yes.
And the second time?
Yes.
Okay.
Except like the second time it says yes, it's kind of hard to fully explain really. But you get the feeling that that second yes is like slightly like impatient.
Well, whatever creature is controlling this needs to understand that there's a certain level of mistrust when it comes to this kind of shit. I'm not just going to believe that you know the answer to every yes or no question. I would say is, am I going to die today?
It says no.
I think I would keep going and I would say, how about the day after that?
No.
I would just keep asking.
So you kind of like just start asking like,
How about the day after that? The
yeah,
day
you
after
just
that.
keep saying that, and it just like keeps saying no, and then eventually it just stops like reacting to that question, and so you're
What
like,
a what a picky. How does it get mad? I mean, wouldn't you ask this machine
yeah,
to identify the day of your death?
it
You know,
flashes,
when isn't that something that like it would be useful for?
it flashes. Ask me a yes or no question, Aaron.
I don't know. Um, Jesus Christ. You don't even know what to ask this thing. It doesn't
Yeah,
want to answer
what answer the
anything
other
big.
questions? Yeah,
Yeah. I would say Are you being controlled by someone like remotely?
The top of the box opens and like this like Jack in the Box comes out. It actually was a Jack in the Box, and it goes like and it pops out at you and it goes no and goes back inside and then it turns off.
Are you
So
fucking kidding me?
you're a
Are
little
you
weirded out.
kidding me?
You kind of look through. You're like, all right, whatever. You unplug it. You look at the. Do you look at like the creepy photo collection or anything like that?
No, we're not going through these weird I mean, when you say creepy, are they like gross or are they
No,
like
it doesn't depict anything necessarily violent or abusive or anything like that. But there's just like those old photos, like those old portraits of people when photography was still new, and
yeah,
they just kind of like the photos are basically them just like sitting there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Just most of them have like very empty looks in their eyes.
yeah. Okay,
And
yeah,
there's like
I
they're
would
kind
look
of
through
like
those.
yeah, so they're like kind of like unsettling in an odd way to you. But
I like those.
yeah, that's the thing. So you actually are a little psyched. So you go through this for a while and you remember that there's a shop in town that kind of specializes in these types of photos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 They stay busy enough to afford their rent in Los Angeles.
Well, it's they do other stuff. It's not that their only thing is, it's kind of what they're
Creepy
most it's
photos.
what they're most known for.
Okay.
They handle creepy photos and personal security. So all of their employees are like creepy photo experts, kind of like photo experts in general, not but they specialize in creepy photos, and they also are like super jacked and like very well trained. They're all like ex Navy SEALs. And if you go there, you need personal protection, they got you. If you go there and you have creepy photos that you want to praise or like sell or whatever, like they got you. So you're like, maybe I
Thank
should.
God.
You're like, maybe I should bring them there. So it's in
Yeah,
this. It's in this weird part of town called Softville.
yeah.
Softville is a kind of it's right outside of Los Angeles, you think. You never really remember the correct way to get there. You just know you follow the Black Star. And it's sort of this kind of isolated, out of the way, not quite a suburb, almost more like a village. And the people who live there are a little odd. They can be slightly mistrustful of outsiders and stuff like that. But you've been through there once or twice, so you feel like you can go there, and it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. So you get in your car, you drive until you see that black star, and it's so dark that even in the darkness of this night, you see it. And before you know it, you're in Sawville, baby. So you go to the store. Uh, it's called Photographs and More.
Seems like security is a pretty big part of their business strategy, but
Well,
it's not even mentioned.
that's the and more part. So
Yeah, but if it's only two things, why not just say photographs and security? Why say and more? Especially when security is such a big piece of the pie. These people are not good at business,
no, they are not. So
man.
you go in and there's like a person behind the counter. He's tall and he's thin. He has a very wispy mustache.
Cool.
He looks up. He's like, "Hello, welcome to photography and more. How can I help you?"
Am I selling these pictures? Am I guess, having them appraised?
Yeah, so you kind of bring him in to just be like, I don't really know what these are. Like I got them in like a will and testament. And so, yeah, you're kind of getting them appraised and seeing if maybe they'd want to like sell them. And so he kind of like, and there's like a big stack of these. So he looks at them and he's like, holy shit. He goes, man, these are creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
And he looks up at you and he goes, "Good score, brother." And so he goes, "Man, there's like a stack of these." He goes, Aaron, if all of these are as creepy as like these first few that I've looked at, and they are, man. There's one photograph where it's like it has to be some kind of like weird photo manipulation because it's basically a family and there's like a gigantic crab like sitting at their feet. And he's like, "What the fuck?" And it's in front of like a barn. And so he's like, "Man, these are creepy as fuck." He actually in the they have a thing there. They ring an alarm. It's called the creep alarm. When they get like particularly creepy photos, they go ding 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 ding, and like everybody looks up and they like walk over and stuff. And so they're like, "Man, it's gonna take us a while to kind of go through these." So yeah, so maybe give us like an hour or so.
It's like a half price book situation where I gotta leave them
Yeah,
at the counter and then they're,
yeah, you leave them at the counter.
I mean,
And
it's a half hour. Do they have a,
an hour.
and it's always an hour? Yeah, then I would just probably, I mean, they have photos. I would probably just like
Yeah. So
wander around the area.
you're like, "All right," you go, I'll be back in an hour." And then they're like, "Not if I see you first." And you're like, "What?" And
Great.
they're like, "Fuck." And so you leave. And I gotta be honest with you, Aaron. There's a rumbly in your tumbly.
Okay.
You remember that there's a restaurant in Sawfield. The last time you were here, you went to this place called Freewheelin' Food. And it's a place where it's mostly like, like pub fare, like kind of like American food for, um the way that it works there is that you can at the end of your meal, you can wrestle your waiter for a discount.
When you say wrestle, like you mean like in like the Olympic sense, like that kind of like
That kind of
grappling?
Yeah, you they have like a ring to the side and you grapple with your waiter. And if
I'm not
you
gonna
win,
fucking do that.
well, you don't have to do it. I'm just saying it's an
Yeah,
option.
yeah.
Also, if you take a dump in their restaurant, you get you get free dessert.
Oh, count it.
Yeah.
Put it on the
So
board,
yeah.
baby.
So you think about freewheeling foods, but then like you turn the corner.
How big of a discount are we talking though?
It depends upon how quickly the waiter submits.
Okay. Just
And
curious.
yeah. However, if you lose, you got to tip the waiter 100%.
Okay.
So it's not like this happens constantly. It really only
Sure.
happens a few times a week. On the weekends, it happens a little bit more just because, people are a bit more daring, they're a little bit more drunk.
Yeah, yeah,
It's got a little bit of the night in them.
yeah.
So, but during the week, it's not really used a lot. Um, like I said, you go around a corner, and in front of you is a Burger King.
Okay.
And do you ever do that thing where you can smell the fast food
Yeah, of
from
course.
outside? You know what I mean?
Yeah, charbroilers roaring, baby.
And it is loud that day, my friend.
Yeah.
It's a very strong scent coming from that Burger King. Onion rings, 100% beef patty, salted fries. You still think of them as freedom fries?
No, I don't.
And that's what it is. It's the smell of freedom fries that gets you. It's kind of that thing where, in cartoons where there's like the waft of what looks like
Yeah.
smoke, but it's intended to be the smell of food. And they kind of
Yeah.
they sniff it, and for like their like feet leave the ground and they're almost like
Oh
fly
yeah.
there. Yeah. So that pretty much happens to you. Like you're pretty sure that your feet actually leave the ground.
because of the smells that are being emanated from this Burger King.
especially those freedom fries. You can
I'm not,
practically
gonna-
take you can practically taste the freedom. And so you're just like, you know what? I haven't been to a Burger King in forever. Fuck it. You know? So
okay,
you go in there. They have a adult ball pits.
that rules.
Yeah. And so you kind of like think about it where you're like, oh, maybe I'll, dip my toe in or something, you know?
Yeah.
So you go up, you get your food. Um and you sit down. There's like a bunch of like really loud patrons in like the main part of the dining area.
Sure.
They're arguing about milk and what the best brand of milk is.
They don't reach a consensus.
I mean, not while you're there, no. So you're kind of annoyed by this, and you're like, whatever. You take your food and you kind of go to like the far end of this Burger King, where it's almost like it's not been necessarily been like forgotten. It's not a forgotten part of this Burger King, but it definitely hasn't been like kept up to date with standard Burger King decorum.
Fuck does that even mean?
It just looks like a Burger King almost from like the early 1900s. You know what I mean? Or early 19th century or early 1900s, yeah. So it's kind of like it's like darker too. Like there's not a lot of lighting there. So there's like a lot of shadows and like I said, it looks like a Burger King from, over 100 years ago.
So there's a shadowy corner of this Burger King lobby.
Yeah, of like the dining area. Like it's off
Yeah.
of the main lobby. It's like it's kind of, tucked away in the back. And so you're like
Yeah.
you go there because you're like, I don't want to hear this debate. It's the dumbest debate you've ever heard. You know what I mean? And it's turning into personal attacks. And you're pretty sure that these two guys arguing about milk or arguing about something else.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
like
yeah, then I
they'll
don't want
say
to be.
you'll hear him say stuff like, and that milk wasn't yours to take, Edgar. And you're like, I don't know what's happening here, but this seems like a very intense argument in a Burger King. So you slip away to the
Man,
shadowy part and you kind of sit down and you fucking dig in. Those fucking freedom fries
I'm
are
not calling him that.
they are crispy, the perfect amount of salt. You bite into those freedom fries and they crunch away instantly with no resistance.
The biggest issue with any sort of like fast food fry, it's either under seasoned or undercooked, generally.
Yeah. But the seasoning on these freedom fries dance across your tongue like they're fucking Fred Astaire. And they are cooked to a temperature that almost makes you think of that fucking cube back in your house.
Cube did not radiate any heat.
No, but like the way it's been cooked, it's like a perfect temperature. You take a sip of that. You took a diet coke and you filled it up like 75%, and that remaining 25%
Yeah.
is that classic cola, baby. You take a sip and it's not
I
like
got
you
a
like
3-to-1 ratio Diet Coke to Coke.
yeah,
Why am I doing that?
because I don't know, you're kind of a Diet Coke guy normally. You're a rock guy
I'm-
and you're a Diet Coke guy, but you just wanted something a little extra that day. You know what I mean? You're like, I deserve this. I feel like I'm about to make a lot of money over at that, at photos, photography, and more. And so you think to yourself, I've earned this. And it's kind of interesting because when you take a sip of it, it's not like you really stirred the drink or anything, but they combine perfectly. You know how what is it? Water and oil don't mix or whatever.
Yeah. Classic.
Yeah. This is the exact
Classic.
opposite of that.
Well, if any two were gonna mix evenly, I would imagine it would be those two. So
Yeah. So you're kind of eating your food and it is a really remarkable Burger King experience. You finish your final bite. You look down at your fingers, they're like covered in fry seasoning.
Ugh.
You resist the urge to lick your fingers, but just barely. You wipe your hands, and then suddenly from behind you, you hear like an organ start playing, like an old church organ almost. It's like doo 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 doo,
Yeah.
and you go like, "What the hell?" And you turn around, and in the shadows of this Burger King, there's like this giant, like I said, church organ, and there's a man sitting at it, and he's wearing a mask that only covers half of his face.
Yeah.
And you look over at him, and he goes, and he looks up and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was here. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not used to seeing people back here." He goes, "My name is,"
You fucking kidding me?
he goes, "My name is, well, my name was Aloysius, but now I'm known as the Burger King Phantom." Do 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 do. Ba
Are you
bow
fucking kidding
bow
me?
bow now. Bow bow ba bow 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 now. Bow. He gets like really into playing "She Drives Me Crazy" on the organ. He looks up at you and he goes, "Aaron, I have haunted this hall of the Burger King for so long I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you." And he goes, "I just sit back here and observe, especially the wondrous Eleonora." And you're like, "What?" So the Burger King Phantom goes on to tell you basically that he's been there for like quite some time, you know, and there's like legends of him, but like usually he's able to like disappear into the walls and stuff when people come back there. It doesn't really happen a lot.
So he's a
Uh,
fucking ghost,
no, he's not a ghost. He's the Phantom of the Burger King, and
but
so
he's disappearing into walls, Pat.
well, he knows the walls. He knows the insides of the walls really well. He's been there for a very long time, so he knows where the weak
That
parts.
doesn't.
It's a very, like I said, like that that's part of the Burger King that you're in. It's not like necessarily well maintained, so we can like slip between the boards and stuff like that,
So he's
almost as if.
physically moving through the walls in themselves
Yeah, 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 and he
because
hides
he
and
knows
stuff.
where the holes in the walls are because it's so poorly maintained. That's why it looks like it's from the early 1900s.
Yeah,
And this guy hangs out there all the. He's always there.
yeah, because basically there is a woman who works there named Eleonora that he has fallen in love with. However, she's engaged to be married to the assistant manager that works there.
Man, leave women who are working alone. Just leave them alone. They're working.
He's
If
like,
they're
I
nice to you, it's because it's a fucking job. Leave them alone.
He's like, "You don't understand, Aaron. I have never spoken to anyone here. I just hide in the walls and pine." He goes,
But pine
"If
away, but don't leave. But don't like talk, don't just leave her alone. He's in love. She's being gonna be married. Part of growing up is learning to like chalk one up to like things not working out, right? And
yeah,
like having realistic expectations of another human being. This
yeah.
he's been there for so long, but he's in love with this woman. How long has she worked there?
She's worked there for about 6 months."
This guy's got to move on. This guy's got to move on. I tell him that. I go, you got to move on. It's not gonna happen.
And he's like, "Is it because of my face?"
I
He
go, it
has like
very
that
well could
half
be.
mask on. He
I said
goes,
that certainly is not helping anything.
he's like, "I cannot allow anyone to see my face."
And I tell him like, well, that's gonna be a big stumbling block for you getting into a relationship.
He turns
You
back to
know,
his organ. He goes,
I'm sorry.
bow, down, da, 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 da,
I would yell over it. I would just go, she's in love with somebody
ba,
else and is going
da,
to marry
da,
him.
da, da,
Just leave her
da, da,
alone.
da, 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 da,
Maybe get out of
da,
the Burger King.
da,
See, there's other people
da,
in the world.
da, 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 da. He's like, just didn't hear a word you said.
Great. Well,
He's like, Aaron, I'm trapped here, you know.
yeah.
He goes,
Also, a big stumbling block to you getting into a relationship. You are haunting a Burger King. You are haunting an early 1900s offshoot that is poorly maintained within a modern Burger King. It's going to be real hard to find somebody to come into that situation and be your partner.
he's like, Aaron, I think you're right. He
I'm
goes,
100% right. And I'm terrible at dating.
he goes, I'm sure you'll find someone, Aaron. But
I'm not, but
he
thank
go,
you.
he goes, will you help me escape? Will you help me leave my prison?
Absolutely not. I'm not, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to release you into my world. I'm not doing that. If you're stuck in here, there's got to be a reason why. And like, I shouldn't be. I'm not the person to help you. I'm eating at a Burger King.
Yeah,
The person who should help you is not going to come to a Burger King unless they're here to help you. They know better because they're smart. That's not me. I'm here on my own volition.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And he goes, I'm sorry too, Aaron.
So what if I came back and visit you every now and then?
And he goes, he looks up at you and he goes, you would do that for me?
I go,
Even
yeah, man.
even with my face?
I don't care about your face. Your face isn't going to prevent me from like forming a friendship with you. But
Yeah.
that being said, like, you know, you should probably have some boundaries with people and your loves. Yeah, I'll come back to this Burger King and I'll hang out in this creepy part and I'll visit you. What do you like from here? I'll pick you up something.
He's like, he looks up at you and there's like you can only really see one eye because the other one's covered with the half mask, but you see
Yeah.
like just a little brimming of tears. And he goes, a double whopper with cheese?
Everything else on it that it normally comes on it.
He's like, I'd love that. He was like,
You like French fries? I'm not calling them the other thing. Do you want French fries? You want onion rings?
he's like, I love I love onion rings. And he's just like clearly like blown away
What
that
about
you would do
sauce?
this for
What's your
him.
sauce situation? How
He
about a
goes,
drink?
he goes, barbecue and 3/4 Diet Coke, last quarter regular?
I would look down at my glass and I would like go, huh? And then I go make that order for him and
Yeah.
I'd bring it back to him and I would share my lunchtime with this fucking freak stuck in this scary part of this Burger King, but he can move through the walls because it's so dilapidated.
So you bring back the food and he like eats it and like he eats it like really, really quickly. And you get the feeling like maybe this guy hasn't like, eaten anything in like a very long time. So he scarfs the whole thing down and he like chugs that what you call a gentleman's coke. He chugs that gentleman's coke and puts it down and he's like, I feel so much better. And then he like takes the mask off and it's just like this weird shining light that blinds you. And
Oh Jesus.
yeah, and you're blinded and it goes like dark for just a second and then like you kind of like come to and you're wearing half of the mask and like
Oh, what the
the a hat
fuck?
and you're wearing like a cloak and like a cape
Are
and
you
shit like
fucking
that.
kidding me? I'm the Phantom now.
Yeah, and you see him standing in like not in the shadows anymore of that Burger King. He
Are
just
you
just looks
fucking kidding
just
me?
looks like some guy and he's like, "Aaron, you've given me a lot to think about my
Are
personal
you fucking
boundaries."
kidding me?
And he's like, "And I think you're right. But so thank you for that. But
Are
anyway,
you
yeah.
fucking kidding me?
Uh thanks for the food. Gotta go." And he just like leaves. And so for the next like 90 years, you're the phantom of the Burger King.
You mean
Uh,
in 90 years I can't convince anybody to buy me
no, just no
a
one comes
fucking
back.
double whopper?
No one comes back there. It's just like a weird, dark, creepy part of it. And so for 90 years, you just haunt
It's
there.
fucking ridiculous.
Sometimes you try to like go through like the walls, but you really can't figure out how he did it. So
This is awful.
most of the time, you just sit there and play the just play random notes on the organ. You never learn to play it, so just like you do that for 90 years, and then a bulldozer comes down and destroys that Burger King.
Fucking-
And then
God damn it.
your soul finally moves on to the next level of existence, which for you is hell.
Why? Why did I go to hell? The last thing I did was an act of kindness for somebody. Are you fucking kidding me? This is I
The collection of creepy photos that you dropped off at Photography and More, it's appraised at $10 million, and they're like, "Whoa! When that guy comes back here, he's going to be super psyched." But you never do.
yeah, great. Cool. It's fucking sucked.
The Phantom of the Burger King.
Yeah, yeah, I heard it.